honored guests, it is my privilege to welcome you to DeKalb High School for our 2023 Veterans Day Convocation. When Francis Scott Key wrote the Star-Spangled Banner almost 200 years ago, he called America the land of the free and the home of the brave. Those words are as true today as they were then. Throughout this nation's history, American soldiers, sailors, airmen, Marines, and Coast Guardsmen have bravely answered the call to defend our freedom, to aid our friends and allies, and to turn back aggressors. We can never fully repay our debt of gratitude to the more than 650,000 American service members who died in the battle, or the 1.4 million who were wounded. We can, however, recognize and thank the 25 million veterans still living today. These words are inscribed on the Korean War Memorial in Washington, D.C. Our nation honors her sons and daughters who answered the call to defend the country they never knew and the people they never met. Those words apply equally to many of our World War I, World War II, Vietnam War, and Gulf War veterans as well. They apply to today's active duty service members, tomorrow's veterans who are helping to maintain peace throughout the world. Today, it is our privilege to say thank you to all of our American veterans, to let them know that we appreciate them for their service and honor them for their sacrifices. The price of freedom is high. We cannot afford to forget those willing to pay it. Today, we celebrate American veterans for keeping this nation the land of the free and the home of the brave. I now introduce to you our Master of Ceremonies, Mr. Bigelow.
At this time, please rise as the American Legion Post 97 of Auburn posts colors. Please remain standing afterward for the national anthem led by our advanced choir students and the pledge led by Student Body President Valerie Eltram.
Honor guard, red hot, forward arm, and a half step forward march.
Now for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. You may be seated. A portion of the proclamation on Veterans Day released this week by the White House reads as follows. This Veterans Day, we honor the generations of women and men who have served and sacrificed, not for a person, a place, or a president, but for an idea unlike any other, the idea of the United States of America. For nearly 250 years, our veterans have defended the values that make us strong so that our nation could stand as a citadel of liberty, a beacon of freedom, and a wellspring of possibilities. This Veterans Day, may we honor the incredible faith that our veterans hold, not just in our country, but in all of us. They are the solid steel backbone of our nation, and we must endeavor to continue being worthy of their sacrifices by working toward a more perfect union and protecting the freedoms that they have fought to defend. For over a century, since the guns of the First World War fell silent on the 11th hour of the 11th day of the 11th month in the year 1918, the American people have observed this day, first as Armistice Day, and now as Veterans Day. Thank you to all who are here for continuing this great tradition. It is now my privilege to introduce our guest speaker this morning, Jennifer Jenkins. Jennifer Jenkins is an award-winning author, military caregiver for her brother, Specialist James W. Smith, U.S. Army retired, mother of a United States Marine, and a wife of a Navy veteran. She is a graduate of Indiana University and has dedicated her career to advocacy and communications. Jennifer co-authored Friends for Life, Strangers Brought Together by the War in Iraq, which received an Eric Hoffer Award for Legacy Nonfiction. She is a fellow with the Elizabeth Dole Foundation, a member of the American Legion Auxiliary, VFW Auxiliary, and the Daughters of the American Revolution. She is a recipient of the President's Volunteer Service Award, the Girls Inc. Strong, Smart, and Bold Award, and the Herald Times Everyday Hero Award. Please join me in welcoming Jennifer Jenkins.
Well, good morning, Barons. Do you guys have a yell or a fight word or a school thing? No. You gotta get one then. Ladies and gentlemen, our distinguished guests, and of course, each and every one of you, welcome to this event, and thank you for welcoming me. It's just such a privilege and an honor to spend today with young people in our country. It's not lost on me, or any of the adults here, that your entire life has been lived during a time of war. It wasn't the same for us. I'm the daughter, granddaughter, mother, sister, and wife of veterans, and I appreciate their service just as much as all of the veterans here. And I appreciate actually your experience here at school. You see, I grew up in a small rural area of Indiana. I'm a Hoosier. A little bit further down the road though, I went to Brown County High School in Nashville, Indiana. It's a bit smaller than here. But I can't think of a better place to be today than with each and every one of you. I want to thank Ms. Weishart, who found Wounded Warrior Project, learned that we had speakers, and then gave me the opportunity to be here with you today, because it's special educators like the ones that you have at this school who make the extra effort to expand your knowledge beyond the books, beyond the standardized tests, but to involve the community in your education. That makes a difference. You may not see it now, but you will over time. You'll see that going to this school made a difference for you. Now, this is my first visit here, so I did a little bit of background research on all of you, and everything I read told me that this is a really great school. And then I read your motto, and I thought, man, this fits so well with Veterans Day. Because your motto is, the future belongs to you. It's early. I'm trying to prompt you all into participating. But the future belongs to you because of these men and women. It is a privilege unknown to most people in the world that boys and girls go to school for free every day without persecution. There are children right now across the globe who cannot go to a convocation like this because it is illegal for them, or because it is too dangerous for them, or because they have to work to keep food on the table. Every one of the veterans here today raised their right hand and swore to defend and support our Constitution. I got that backwards. They swore to support and defend our Constitution. It seems simple. They recite a phrase that's written on a card and somebody asks them to read, but it's more than that. It's writing a check made out to the United States government, and the amount is up to and possibly including their life. Fortunately for our country, we have been blessed since before our inception with citizens who take their civic responsibility seriously and who have raised their arms and marched to the sounds of guns when necessary. Our country calls and they answer. It's a patriotic response, but it is civic duty. And each and every one of these veterans have been part of something bigger that ensures that we're free. And that reminds me of the Army's creed, which all soldiers in the Army are required to memorize. Now, we've got veterans back here from the Air Force, the Marine Corps, the Navy. I don't see any Space Force. I don't see any Coast Guard, but maybe next year. And here's what you recite and learn when you join the Army, the Soldier's Creed. As I read this, I want you to listen and see if any of it speaks to you. Not speaks to you as in calling you to join the Army, but speaks to you and your civic responsibility. I am a warrior and a member of a team. I serve the people of the United States and I live the Army values. I will always place the mission first. I will never accept defeat even when school bells are ringing during my big, large Veterans Day speech. I will never quit. I will never leave a fallen comrade. I am disciplined, physically and mentally tough. I'm trained and proficient in my warrior tasks and drills. I always maintain my arms, my equipment, and myself. I am an expert, and I am a professional. I stand ready to deploy, to engage and destroy the enemies of the United States of America in close combat. I am a guardian of freedom and the American way of life. I am an American soldier. But you know what? Living by a code of values isn't just for those who serve in our military. It's like celebrating Veterans Day isn't just for November 11th. I think we should all think hard about how we can live by a code of values, but you actually have a little bit of a step up on the rest of us because you have barren beliefs. trust, you can say them with me if you want, respect, responsibility, integrity. You know, for most of my life, and I dare say when I was your age, which was a long time ago, I didn't realize how living by a code of values would actually help me during the toughest times of my life. Mr. Bigelow mentioned that I'm a caregiver for my brother, something I never really anticipated doing when I was your age. But I'm 13 years older than my brother, so I've actually always kind of taken care of him. Anybody here have younger siblings that maybe you have to look after? I see a lot of heads shaking, a lot of hands go up, a lot of eye rolling. I get it. Little brothers and sisters are the worst. I was 13 when my brother was born, and I remember it was so much work. I often changed his diaper. I got him a bottle. When he got bigger, I had to keep him out of things. And then it came time for me to leave home and go to college. And he was not even in kindergarten yet. And it was tough for me to make that decision because things in my house weren't so good. I actually visited Manchester and thought about going to school there, but I chose Indiana University because it would keep me close to home and keep me close to my brother and sister. By the time my brother was in high school, he needed a place to live that was safe, that the lights were turned on, where there was food on the table every day. And so when Child Protective Services visited my house and told me that my brother could either live with me or go to foster care, even though I was only 26 years old, I took him in and became his legal guardian. Now, gosh, you teenagers can be tough to parent sometimes, I want to tell you. But I did the best that I could, and by the time my brother was a junior, I started talking to him the way that some of your parents will talk to you. I started asking him what he might do after high school. It was selfish. I wanted to know when he was going to leave my house. But honestly, I wanted to help him find the path for his future. He told me he wasn't interested in going to college yet, and I didn't have any money really to send him. So we started talking about the military. And he said, I think I'm interested in that. And I said, okay, I want you to make me a promise. I want you to visit every single branch, every recruiter, because I want you to be firm in the decision you make, that you gathered all the information before you joined. And he agreed. And he told me he actually wasn't going to make the decision to join until the end of his senior year. But on September 11th, 2001, my brother was sitting in his senior math class with about 30 other students, watching the events of 9/11 unfold on the television. And he decided that day that he was going to join the Army because he wanted to go fight the good fight. You know, we didn't even know what the good fight was against that. Now, over the course of the next couple of weeks, he went and talked to his guidance counselor, read his school handbook, and he realized that he had enough credits to graduate high school early. That little stinker. He went to the office and asked a few questions, and they confirmed. And then he came to me and he said, Jen, I want to join the Army right now. And I said, James, you're going to miss graduation and prom and senior skip day. You guys still have that? I thought so. He didn't care. He was ready to go, and there was only one thing standing in his way. And that was my signature, because he was only 17 at that time and I was his legal guardian. And so I went with him to the recruiter's office. And we signed the papers, and before I knew it, he was off to be trained and to become a soldier in the Army, an infantryman. He later deployed to Mosul, Iraq, where he was wounded after he drove over an improvised explosive device. And the injuries he suffered that day are still with him. They've left him with lifelong disabilities. I'm proud to say that if asked, my brother would answer the call today and do what he could wherever he was needed, and I know each and every one of these veterans would do the same, because it's in their heart to be called to service. When my brother came home wounded, we experienced some of the toughest times in our life. We were tested physically, emotionally, psychologically, financially, and do you know who came to help us? There are always helpers. You've all heard that Mr. Rogers saying, right? When something's going wrong, look at the helpers. It was veterans. It was people from the American Legion, from the VFW, law enforcement, first responders, who came to help us get through those tough times. That was nearly 20 years ago, and today we stand on the other side of those circumstances, and the struggles that we went through after my brother was wounded have molded us into the people that we are today. We've learned great lessons, and one of those lessons that we learned is that we can't do anything alone. And that's a lesson that our veterans learned from day one in boot camp, am I right? You can't do it alone. You will not win any fight by yourself without backup. You will not accomplish any mission without a unit trained and educated there to support you along the way. Now, some of our veterans were drafted into service. They were conscripted during a time of great peril in our country. And we're fortunate today that we don't have a draft. There are men and women who volunteer to go, to leave their families. Some do it because they have tough times as a kid, like my brother and I. Others want to earn money for college, and honestly, some people join the military because they are called to serve, just like doctors were called to serve medicine, or our clergy members were called to serve their faith. But it doesn't matter the circumstances under which any of our veterans joined. It doesn't matter their branch. It doesn't matter the era that they served. It doesn't matter if they were an officer, if they were enlisted, if they were wounded, or if they never left the soil of the United States of America. Whenever our nation needed them, whether it was for training, to move supplies, or to fight the enemy eye to eye, they were there. Americans have been there for our entire existence. We have never relied on anyone else. And this service hasn't just won wars or protected our territory. It's preserved our way of life, our daily activities. Veterans have ensured your right to travel freely, to have the phones that are all in your pockets, probably just itching to come out right now. They've ensured your right to go to the movies or listen to any kind of music that you want to attend events like this, or just to hang out with your friends. Those aren't rights and liberties around the world, but they are here in the United States of America. And though we're not officially at war on this Veterans Day, we have service members in harm's way across the globe, and we continue to fight and defend freedoms and to combat terrorism. And those service members are going to be our nation's future veterans. So my challenge to you is to be a soft place for them to land when they come home. To keep having Veterans Day convocations, to keep paying attention to them like you are now. Because we owe them a debt we can never repay. Unless you join the military, you don't know what it's like to give up every one of your freedoms. And so we have to honor them with deeds and not words. The words are nice, to say thank you for your service, but that's just the beginning. I want to give you some other ways that you can show your appreciation for our veterans. Okay, ready? You don't have to take notes. There probably won't be a quiz later, but I can't guarantee that. First, after you say thank you, remind yourself to take full advantage of all the rights that they have defended. Before you know it, you're going to be adults. Some of you may be old enough now to vote. Do it. Vote in every election, because everyone around the world doesn't get that right. And that's one of the rights that these veterans fought to defend. Write letters to the editors of your local newspaper. Go to town hall meetings and county councils. Express your concerns about things. And while you're there, express your gratitude for what's going right in your community. Volunteer your time. Maybe it's with Big Brothers Big Sisters. Maybe you're going to work at a food kitchen. Maybe you helped put on this event today. I see a number of students who are part of today's event. Volunteering is a civic duty. Someday when you get called for jury duty, go. Try to put a smile on your face. Mentor children in your lives. You know them, little kids running around your neighborhood, maybe your cousins, maybe somebody that you just see in a mall or a Walmart or shopping center. Be a good example for children. You're almost adults and they are looking at you. If you travel abroad, and I hope you do, there's so much to see in this amazing world, represent your country well. Think about that. People are looking. Some of you may already have registered for selective service, but that's a role and responsibility right now our young men take, and someday our young women too. And yes, consider serving your nation in uniform. Maybe one of the uniforms that these folks wore, maybe one of the uniforms that our law enforcement wear, maybe a paramedic or a nurse's uniform, but consider serving in that way. Don't let it be lost that 1% of the people in the stands, in the bleachers right now, 1% of you will serve in the United States military. That's 12. 12 of you are going to raise your right hand to support and defend the Constitution of the United States. You'll have reunions someday, and some of them won't be able to come because they're still serving. I hope they all remember how much you paid attention today and how much you support veterans, because one day they'll need you. Now go, live your lives, be good Americans, show all the veterans that they can be proud of you. Be productive citizens, and when you see a soldier, a sailor, an airman, a Marine, a Coast Guardman, or a Guardian, yes, I had to look that up, that's what Space Force is called, remember that they gave some of the best years of their life to serve our country, and they stood ready to give their life to defend it. President John F. Kennedy once said that a nation reveals itself not only by the people it produces, but also by the people it honors and the people it remembers. DeKalb veterans, remember that you are revealing yourself today in a great and honorable way by hosting this Veterans Day event. Thank you for carrying the torch to honor all those who've served here and abroad, and to honor all of those families whose loved ones have served, because families serve too. And lastly, I want to quote President Abraham Lincoln's charge to all of us. Honor the soldier and the sailor everywhere who bravely bears his country's cause, and also honor the citizens, each and every one of you, who cares for their brothers in the field and serves as best they can the same cause. Thank you all. God bless America.
At this moment, we would also like to introduce the exalted ruler of our local chapter of the Elks. They have come to donate to the Wounded Warrior, which Ms. Jenkins helps represent, and they are presenting $1,200 to Wounded Warrior.
At this time, we would like to recognize our veterans in attendance today by having them stand and introduce themselves, as well as their branch of military for the time they served. Students, please hold your applause until all veterans have introduced themselves.
My name is William Willis. My branch of service is Army.
William T., United States Army.
Ed Colberg, United States Navy.
Tyler Flotro, United States National Guard.
Leonard Kitzer, U.S. Navy.
Ron Corporal, U.S. Army.
Frank Sullivan, U.S. Army.
Allie Jones, U.S. Air Force.
Howard Lawson, U.S. Army.
Chris Reffner, regular Army, National Guard, and Army Reserve.
John Payne, U.S. Air Force, 1960 to 64. Thank you.
Mike Snyder, U.S. Army.
Seth Osmond, U.S. Army.
Michael Hammond, U.S. Army.
Dan Smith, U.S. Navy, 80 to 88.
Ralph Cook, U.S. Navy.
Gary Butler, Vietnam medic.
Phil Zeman, retired United States Marine Corps.
Jessica Spiker, U.S. Air Force.
Russ Goodwin, U.S. Army.
David Blakey, U.S. Air Force.
Ed Zuber, U.S. Air Force.
Jess Bonecutter, U.S. Navy, 67 to 71.
Ty Schultz, U.S. Army.
Celeste Hartman, U.S. Army. And your very own DeKalb Baron, Micah, she's also U.S. Army.
Sergeant First Class Ponko, rock hard.
Thank you, veterans. Please recognize them at this time. At this time, our choir, directed by Mr. Doublestein, will sing the Armed Forces Medley. Military, please stand when you hear your service song being played. Students, you are welcome to stand when your family's service song is played. DeKalb High School continues to collect names and service information of DHS graduates who are serving or have served in any branch of the U.S. military. Data is being compiled, including Auburn High School and Waterloo High School, prior to the opening of DeKalb High School. We want to acknowledge their dedication and sacrifices to our country. A poster with the names of honor is on display in the case outside of the DHS main office. If you know of someone who should be included, please have them contact Ms. Days in the Media Center or leave their contact information in the main office. Only names that have been submitted by family are visible on the program. While Veterans Day is primarily a tribute to America's living veterans and should be observed more as a celebration than as a somber remembrance, it is always appropriate to include a moment of respect for those who gave their lives for their country. At this time, please stand for a moment of silence, followed by the playing of taps by DeKalb High School student Zayden Krotz. Thank you to all of those for joining us today and your attendance. Students, you are encouraged to meet, shake hands, and thank our veterans before heading back to SST this morning. Thank you, parents.